I saved specifically so I could spend this much. 300's like a normal festival. This is no normal festival. No, Furious, Ricky. Furious. I don't mind Riku's chain. But they removed... I have two elements I don't have chains for at all. Which is fire and earth. They removed the earth chain from the chain banner. There's no universe in which I can be happy about that. Even though Riku's is fine. I wouldn't mind having it at all. Okay. Let's start talking about Banner 1. God, it's only been out for 20 minutes. Feels like I've been waiting for longer. Let's get some Enliers up. None. No changes at all. Other than Red 13 chain to Riku chain and Red 13 LMR2 to Riku LMR2. That's it. So let's talk about Awakenings. We did have them already released on the Kingdom Hearts banners, but this was supposed to be the official release of them, so let's go into that. An Awakening is a lot easier to describe than it looks like. It looks like there's a lot of effects going on. And there is, but it's not that bad. So, when an Awakening appears on a relic, it has three effects. The first is, while the Awakening is active, it's a 15-second status. While that Awakening is active, none of your abilities cost any ability charges to use. They get a little infinite symbol next to them, and you can just use them no matter what. And when the Awakening fades, they'll be left with the amount of abilities that they had, or amount of uses that they had before you started the Awakening. The second trait that an Awakening does is automatically cast everything for that Awakening twice. Oh, I forgot to mention that the Awakening, as it says here on Zidane's, is Awoken Thief. So each Awakening has a trait. Sometimes multiple traits. Zidane's is Thief. Sometimes you will get... So Thief is an ability school. Sometimes you'll get someone like Terra, who's on Banner 4. Hers is Awaken Fire, so that's an element. So that trait governs what has infinite uses. Only Fire abilities will have infinite uses for Terra. Only Thief abilities will have infinite uses for Zidane. So only the typed ability gets the benefit from these things. So all Thief abilities will cast twice, no matter what. And that does not stack with ability doubles. So if you stacked someone like Orlandu, with Orlandu eventually gets an Awakening for Night and Darkness, you couldn't use them, or you could use them to both of them together, but I wouldn't advise it. You do not cast 3 times. You do not cast 4 times. Other dual casting things do work with it. It's just ability doubles. You know, VV, Orlandu, Tifa. Those USBs don't work with Awakenings. So you just cast twice. And the third trait is every ability that you cast that is a thief for Zidane gets a rank boost in damage. So that's a 5 for rank 1, 10% for rank 2, 15 for rank 3, 20% for rank 4, and lastly, if you're using a rank 5 ability, even though it doesn't cost any uses while you have the Awakening active, if you do have an R5 ability, you get plus 30% damage. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive. Why would I use an Awakening? Now I can use R1 abilities. They last infinitely during the Awakening, so why would I want them more? I believe that the reason for that is, if you think back when ability doubles first came out, imagine how prohibitive it is to use one of those on a new player. A new player doesn't have the orbs or the crystals to hone up to use their ability doubles. Yeah, the things you're talking about in chat right now about multi-element and stuff like that, I planned on getting to those when we got to Terra, who could use multi-elemental things. But anyway, new players had a really tough time using ability doubles. You know, the reason for that is they just don't have the abilities to use. Some veteran players have problems using them because they just chew up so many hones. So the infinite ability use thing, that's so newer players don't have to pull the strongest shit in the game, which is Awakenings, and then end up just not being able to use them. For veteran players, that's what the rank boost is for. So you want to be using R5 or R4 for 20% or R5 for 30% damage boosts with your Awakenings. Now, if I were to be pulling on this banner, and if I did pull Zidane's Awakening, one of the first things you would see me do is turn the 6-star Thief ability, 6-star Wind Thief ability into R5. I want that 30% damage boost. So that's the 3 traits of the Awakening. Now there's other things that happen on most Awakenings. And you'll see that here. Increase the user's cap break level by 1. What that means is everyone has a cap break level of 1. Which is no cap break, basically no cap break at all. Increasing the cap break level by 1 puts it to 2. And that means they're able to damage cap break up to 20,000 damage instead of the 10,000 that we're limited to right now. So that's really interesting. So the 6-star Thief ability in Zidane's hands usually has a maximum damage potential of 50,000 damage. With the Awakening, it casts twice, so that is 100,000 damage on a turn. With cap break level 2, that means he can, every single one of those hits has its maximum damage doubled. So now he could potentially deal 200,000 damage in a turn with just the Awakening. If you have his dual cast Legend Materia, has a 25% chance of being able to deal 300,000 damage a turn. And that is quite powerful. Awakenings changed the game. They deal so much more damage than anything else we have available, and I'm sure if you don't have access to the Kingdom Hearts ones, you've probably heard the stories about them. It's congratulations to anyone who 100 gemmed this. They're extremely good. Now, Zidane's Awakening has other traits, I suppose. Yeah. So a lot of Awakenings also have a kind of a unique, a thing that kind of sets them apart. Zidane's allows him Every time he uses an ability, he generates 25% more soul break points. You see that in this last line here? Increase the amount of thief abilities charge the user's soul break gauge a moderate amount. That is some soup. Have a good night, Shad. All that means is he generates 25% more soul break points. I don't know how valuable that is on Zidane. Zidane has this awesome Legend Materia 2 that allows him to trance and instantly cast thief abilities. So he basically loses a lot of his damage output by not using thief abilities. So you go from instantly casting thief abilities to using these soul break points to long cast a USB or something. That kind of stinks. I'd say it's something you compare with his USB 2. Sure. What I'm trying to say is, yes, it would be beneficial to do that, but understand it's not as good as it sounds because you're losing something in order to gain something. The last thing you want to do during an awakening is chew up time during that awakening, not using your automatic dual casting, your rank boosts, and in Zidane's case, his instant casting. You need to make damn sure that whatever it is that you cast during that isn't taking advantage of the awakening is worth it. For a lot of people, it might be. Zidane even less so, because he has access to that transfer. If you're using Zidane with someone like Cloud, and you are using Zidane as less of a damage dealer and more of a damage enabler with Zidane's USB 1 to imperil the boss for Cloud, USB 2 Finisher with Awakening is powerful. The only way to time that correctly would be to use the USB first, so you're not gaining anything from this. I guess this is what I'm talking about right now, is a 25% soul break point gain. I don't really view this as being a valuable, unique part of an awakening. That's all. Yes, if you cast Zidane's USBs before the awakening, that can be quite powerful because you're not using losing any of the time on the awakening. The problem is that this isn't retroactive, you know? It's an awakening, so I don't doubt that at all, Strider. Any awakening can be used for a very, very, very powerful effect against Odin. Yeah, it could be good for Gengo's ASB. No, actually not really. If you think about it, he's casting instantly anyway, and a 6-star ability. In 15 seconds, imagine how many soul break points you're going to have after using all your thief abilities during that time. What do you take, 8 actions? You're looking at like 900 soul break points. Maybe it allows him to glint after the awakening and then arcane, but he only has a 3-hit arcane anyway, so you probably don't need to do that. Yeah, that's true, Adia. So Zidane has a 3-hit arcane, and that's kind of a problem because a 3-hit arcane only has a maximum damage output of 300,000 damage. I know only sounds a little crazy, but when you consider how much damage awakenings do, it's not that great in a lot of situations. Awakening and arcane is very viable without the 25% increased soul breakpoint generation. With, it's just overkill. So there's other characters, look. Titus. There's other characters that their little unique runner-up, or, you know, additional effect on their awakening is cause every third sharpshooter ability they use to trigger the follow-up ability Ace Shot, dealing ranged physical, water, and non-elemental damage to one target. It's basically 100,000 free damage. An Ace Shot can break the damage cap. It's an OSB hit that we're used to getting off of our like Brave USBs. That's extra damage during the awakening, and you don't have to interrupt your Sapphire blitzing to do that. Whereas this does not add that. This is something you can only really take advantage of. I would find it hard to take advantage of this extra soul breakpoint generation. Now, they may have done this on purpose. Because, like I was talking about Zidane's trance there, Zidane's trance is insane. And him being able to instantly thief ability along with a thief awakening is disgusting. So it may be intentional that they didn't want to give him something too insane. So anyway, it's an awakening, so it's good. We'll move on. That's probably the longest I'm going to talk about any of the awakenings. So what do we got? Vaan. Which USB is this? 3. Instant, like that. 10 ranged wind attacks. Temporarily lower magic and defense. Temporarily reduce delay of user's thief's abilities. That's a high quick cast? Yeah, thief high quick cast. So 66% reduction in cast time. So Vaan decides to try to be like Zidane. Grant the user bravery mode. Oh, so it's a brave USB. Oh, yeah, I remember this. The brave is actually really good. At brave level 3, it's 10 single target physical wind attacks, and it's magic, defense, and mind minus 70%. So it's a crash debuff. That's really powerful against Zodiark, who is kind of a pain in the ass. He's one of the hardest torment bosses. So this is actually a good USB 3. No, not at all. Zidane with his USB 1 is an Imperiler. That is not what Vaan does with his USB 3. His USB 1 is better for casting thief abilities, but I'll take the high quick cast instead of the instant, and take this brave commands instead. I forget Vaan's USB 2, so I don't know. Probably not. Vaan's Arcane, not much to talk about here. It's an Arcane. On someone who doesn't get an element. Something to remember. Shantoto Arcane. Warrior of Light USB 2 is kind of a basic overflow finisher USB. But I would say it's good because it's so rare to have good things in Final Fantasy 1. So it's a strong torment tool. And I suppose the same goes for Firian's USB 2. 10 physical, ice, holy ice and fire. So he's samurai. Attacks to one enemy, temporarily set the user's critical chance to 75%. Reduce delay of the user's actions, temporarily grant the user brave mode and set the user's bravery level to 2. He does get Knight eventually. What is the specifics on the Soul Break? I haven't looked at this in a while. Okay, so the Brave command is considered Samurai, but it's holy damage, and you can build it up. Oh, is it only Samurai? I didn't check that. If you can only build it up with Samurai, then it is just an Ice and Fire. Which is fine. It's still powerful. Especially because, like Warrior of Light's USB, it's for a realm that's hard to get good things in. Not as hard as Final Fantasy 1, but still hard. It's only Samurai? Okay. That sticks. Okay, so that's all the 6 stars. What I kind of like about this banner is that I don't really understand why Shantoto's here, but Shantoto is Final Fantasy 11, Warrior of Light's Final Fantasy 1, and Furion is Final Fantasy 2. These 3 things are powerful things in their realms, and they're side realms. They're realms that are hard to gear for. So if you do need the Vaan and Zidane things, like if you do need Final Fantasy 9 and Final Fantasy 12, this is a really good banner. To not only get stuff for those main realms, but also fill out some hard-to-gear stuff down here. Moving on, we got Vaan. I do like his glint, right? Instantly deals 6 physical wind non-elemental attacks to one enemy, temporarily lowers wind resistance by 1, so 10% in peril, and increase the user's wind attack level by 1. That's cool for a glint. Furion, temporarily increase the damage of the user's attack to hit a... Can I just... I'm going to read off the more specific things. Weakness 30% boost. And high quick cast too. God, that was so much easier. So he hits anything he's hitting weakness, he hits 30% harder. So that's the same thing Onion Knight gets. I like that because he's a triple elemental character. And Zidane has a good glint. Yeah, it's just a instant 6 attacks and when stacking, which is fine. It's good. Vaan, thank goodness he finally gets a dual cast Thief Elamar. Warrior of Light and Holy Elamar. And Lightning Elamar for Shantoto. Samurai dual cast for Furion, and Thief dual cast for Zidane. This is a good banner. These Legend Materia, other than... I'm not really all about Shantotos and Warrior of Lights, but all of these dual casting Elamars for the characters that are at the top of the banner, yeah, I'll take those. Good glints. And a good spread of USBs. So you just need to make sure that the realms that this covers are what you're looking... Realms and elements, I guess. It's a deal with dual cast and brave ability. Brave abilities only increase the brave charge when you... by use of the ability, not the triggering of an ability. Yeah, it's worth something, Hellmaster. I think the best way to earn soul break points at the start of a fight on Zidane is to use Flash Disaster. before you have the ability to instant cast thief abilities. Prior to trancing, flash disaster. After you've tranced, then you start using thief abilities. So, okay. So how's everyone feel? I know I spent a long time talking about the so-called drawback of Zidane's Awakening, even though it's an awakening on one of the best characters in the game, so it's really good. But don't make it sound like I think it's bad. No, it does not go up by 2, just by 1. If I hadn't cleared the Final Fantasy VII Torment... sorry, I have cleared the 9. If I hadn't cleared the Final Fantasy IX Torment, I would be pretty interested in pulling on this banner. But while I would like this Awakening a lot, I want to aim at other Awakenings instead, personally. That's a problem too, Bricktop. That's a good point, is that it's physical wind. This is very a wind-focused banner, but there happens to be other very strong characters in the physical wind realm. So that's why I was talking mostly in like the regards of how powerful this was for 9 and 12, rather than elemental, because yeah, we all know what's coming. I'll be talking about that in about an hour and a half or so. But Bart's... Thank you very much, Stax. Oh yeah, remember I was talking about increase the user's cap break level by 1, so he can deal 20,000 damage per hit now. We already have 2 characters in the game by the names of Cloud and Sephiroth who have cap break level 9. Or cap break level 10, I suppose.